Meet Aperture's first ever tube light, the MT Pro. 36 pixels in 1 foot, with CRMX in any color. Unleash your creativity with one or many. Leading the industry in pixel density, the MT Pro produces ultra-smooth chases and effects unmatched by any other light.
It's time to change the way we think about lighting. Introducing the new Anglerfish series from iFootage. Boasting cutting-edge color reproduction without sacrificing portability, the Anglerfish series makes cinematic lighting more accessible than ever. The Anglerfish series utilizes a bespoke construction and a new one-of-a-kind LED element to recreate the full spectrum of the sun with unbeaten accuracy. This unique LED element recreates the full daylight spectrum, but without the blue peak that's typically found in even the top studio lighting products.
My eye on the dance floor, eye on the door. Hey, a DJ, like the way I sway. I gotta get it.
Lady, go!
1, 2, 3, 4. It's fast, yeah, you're gonna shut up. How do your battles, you gotta tell it how to the cure. If it's trash, yeah, you're gonna take it out. Handle it rapidly, got the magic, you got it for sure. You can see what's in your jar. Alpha.
Meet SWIT's latest RGBW panel innovations, the Van Gogh 70 and Van Gogh 100 LED panels. The Van Gogh series uses exclusive edge-mounted RGBW SMD LEDs, which results in an extremely thin 21mm LED panel that is fanless, making zero noise on set. The time division drive technology makes Van Gogh up to 60% brighter than its competitors in RGB mode. You can count on extreme color accuracy with a very high CRI and TLCI. Thinner, lighter, brighter, and quieter. These are the Van Gogh Ultra Slim RGBW panels by SWIT.
Alpha.
Hello everyone, welcome to Pro TV. Thank you very much for joining us for our Sony stream today on the new little camera which they've announced yesterday, the ZV-E1. I'm joined by Sony's imaging specialist, Mark Baber. How are you, Mark?
Very good, Carl. Thanks for the invite to be here again.
Anytime, anytime. And before we get started on the presentation which you think, I wanted to talk about the giveaway that we're doing over on Instagram, because over on our Instagram channel, we are giving away a bunch of Sennheiser headphones at the moment, including the main prize is this really, really nice Neumann set of headphones, which are £600 pair of headphones, effectively. These are their studio, high-end, matched with their studio monitor editing headphones, which are stunningly nice. And then we've also got the second prize is the HD400 Pros, which are the ones I edit with here, lovely open back headphones. And then for the runners-up, 3 pairs of their regular HD25 lights as well. So that's over on our Instagram channel if you want to enter that giveaway and win yourselves a new pair of headphones. But yesterday, you guys launched a vlogging camera, which I sort of disagree with it being a vlogging camera, but of course it is a vlogging camera. Yep. But this thing is unbelievably powerful for what it is. As we go through this, by the way, everyone, if you leave any questions that you might have, I can see one's come in already. Any questions that you might have in the chat, I'll bring them up as and when they're relevant to the conversation, and maybe pause every now and again to look at questions. But I can see all your questions as we're watching live, so please do leave them down there. But yeah, I was so surprised by how powerful this thing is. And it's the same sensor as the A7S Mark III and FX6, which is unbelievable that you've put that in a vlogging camera.
The same processor and the sensor as well. So those that are used to the A7S III and the FX6 look, FX3 look and so on, then you're going to be very pleased with what's coming out of the camera. So
Absolutely.
very, very good in such a small, compact body, and we'll cover that a bit later because it's very similar in size to the A7C for those that are obviously used to that more retro kind of block camera as well.
I guess, do you see this as the natural step in the vlogging lineup, or an entry level to your pro lineup with the full frame sensors, or a replacement to the A7C, or, mentally, where have you stuck this in your head?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it is for vloggers, it's for content creators, and it sits now at the kind of the top of the pyramid of that range of cameras. So you now can go from, we brought some here today, the ZV-1F and the ZV-1. The ZV-1 came out first of that kind of vlogging-centric camera that you put on the grip, and you're obviously recording yourself to camera as well. And from that, then we brought in the ZV-E10. So the APS-C size sensor, which looks pretty much exactly the same as the ZV-1. Obviously, it's a lot smaller. And now it makes sense to bring in a full-frame version of that. So it kind of, does sit very much in its own pillar of content creation vlogging, like, the A7R range does for resolution, and the A7 2, 3, and 4 for all-rounder performance. So... and then it kind of, if you have an A7S III and an FX3, this could be used as a second camera or B-roll camera.
Absolutely.
Ideal for streaming, webinars, gaming. I mean, this could be. It's not just for sticking it on a grip and so on. This could be used for a huge amount of content creation.
I mean, creators is the right word. I think that's a better term than vlogging, isn't it? I like the term content creator because it sums so many people. And yes, this can be for the YouTube vloggers, but it could also be for yoga teachers or for tutors or for freelance marketing people or for in-house marketing people. I can see companies buying a few of these for their in-house marketing teams just to be able to create in-house videos. This is the perfect camera for that kind of work.
I agree. And if those are looking for that, look with really shallow depth of field, creative background, ease of use in terms of very accurate, reliable autofocus. You don't have to worry about being in front of the camera. Absolutely. Is it going to focus a mile or the edge of the glasses? Or
with your new AI stuff in here, this is or apart from maybe the A7R Mark V, it's probably the best autofocus on any camera on the market because the AI stuff is incredible.
It is. And in terms of how it locks on and how what we're going to cover in a second is the amount of face recognition functionality now that relies on the ability to pick out your face with ease and in focus, or if you're bringing something close to the lens of the camera.
Yes.
Your face is still in focus until you bring that closer to the range of the lens that you're using, and it will focus on that subject, even though it knows your face is in the camera. And we spoke about this earlier. Older, Sony technology, for example, if you did that, it would probably still focus on the face, and you'd have to take the focus point to the left or the right, whereas this does it automatically.
If you cut to my camera, Sergey, basically, if you did that and blocked your face, it would focus to it. But if you did that and held it up close beside your face, like the camera that's filming right now is doing, it wouldn't focus on the camera. It stays focused on my face until I physically block my face, and then it focuses on
for those people that maybe don't have the time to set the camera up beforehand, or they just want to switch it on and just use it straight out of the box,
absolutely,
then it's perfect for that person. If you want to delve deeper into the menu system and the manual element of it, then of course you've got that as well. So
absolutely, I've sort of been thinking of it in my head as a bit like a sort of flow chart. Are you a professional camera operator? Yes or no? If the answer's no, then this is basically the best camera you can get for you spend any amount of money on it, because it's the same sensor as your high-end cinema cameras with the FX6, but really easy to use, so you don't have to be a professional camera operator to use it? If the answer is yes, then it's a nice little side camera with the same sensor as perhaps the main camera that you're using, the A7S or FX3 or FX6. I think it's a big market.
Yeah, it is a stills camera as well, but
Sure.
as you've probably seen in the product releases we've had over the last couple of years, there's been a real focus on video. So you switch it on, it's set up for video. If you want to use it for stills, you can, but there are some stills functionality that doesn't exist compared to your A7S3 and so on. So, and we'll cover those kind of things later as well. But the fact is, it is a video-centric camera that for content creators and vloggers alike. So.
Sure. An interesting little comment from Paul, who said, when I guess said people using in-house marketing, all that sort of stuff could use this, said they can also use APS-C cameras, which is a fair point.
You're absolutely right. And I think what this camera, like with most releases, and I suppose not just for Sony but other brands, it does raise the awareness of the rest of the range. So, we've got a system here that, like we said, we go from entry to mid to high end, that you can actually use the two in conjunction. And then the lenses, so the Sony lenses, and I know I've mentioned this on other webinars we've done before, but we now have over 70 native lenses for the APS-C and the full frame system. So without the use of an adapter. So you're going to get the full autofocus functionality on an APS-C as you do with a full frame. But the fact is you can swap the lenses over.
And some of those full frame lenses are really quite affordable as well nowadays. It used to be that to get full frame glass, you had to spend a lot more than you did with APS-C.
Yeah, you're right.
Not necessarily true nowadays.
That's absolutely right. And again, there's a variety that I think the 50mm focal length in the range, we have quite a few, from one that's a good few years old, and then recently we launched the 51.4 G Master. So, there are different, and we've got like a trio set of lenses that are very, very good for street photography, very pancake-like, but actually fits brilliantly, not just on, the APS-C camera, but now the new ZV-E1.
Absolutely. And on the APS-C comment, we might, like you said, people might become attracted by this camera to the lineup, but then decide actually the E10 is the right one for them because of their budget. I mean, the price difference between the E10 and this is huge. Yeah.
And I think, again, if this isn't on your shopping list for a variety of reasons in terms of filmmaking, you might go straight to an A7S3 and so on. Well, obviously, there's a big jump from that to there, but the fact is now actually it might make people look and go, well, actually, that's got a 3-capsule microphone, that's got a flip-out screen, that's got that product. Well, hang on a minute, you can use an external mic. Okay, right. Maybe that's something that I didn't consider in the past. Or actually, I'm going to go for something like the ZV-E1, but this could be a B camera. Okay, it doesn't have the same kind of looks that the ZV-E1 has straight out of the box, but in terms of workflow and editing, you could match that externally as well. So I think now confidently, I feel really quite positive that we've got this huge, a wide range of vlogging content creation cameras, as well as the traditional alpha camera that you can still obviously use for that type of activity.
Absolutely. Should we get started on your lovely slides?
Yes, we've got this is it. So we've got obviously the sample we've got here. It's in terms of build quality, it's very similar to the ZV-E10. In terms of we use a lot of recycled material now as well to produce the products. We'll come on to that a bit later. You've got your fully retractable screen. You've got not many buttons on the back, but they're all customizable. And you've also got the zoom lever on the front, which you can again customize as well. So even though they don't physically have the same amount of buttons that we have with other alpha cameras, then it is customizable internally in terms of function buttons and so on that you can set up.
Absolutely. Do you want to just cut to the close-up camera? So, it's really, and also the recycled material doesn't. The worry whenever I hear that term, we now make it from recycled material, I just worry that it's going to affect the build and make it feel a bit cheap. Not the case at all.
You're right.
It really feels good.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, even though I say that, for people that are watching or watch later, it does feel good in the hand. The ergonomics, the grip, it doesn't feel plasticky at all or anything like that. It's really good build quality and follows the suit for the rest of the alpha range. So you're not going to pick it up, like you said, and think, oh, actually, what's happened in with the design of this? It is performs very well in terms of the operational side of it.
Absolutely.
So we've already talked about where it sits. The fact is now we've got beginner, step up, and the vlog camera as well. So we've got this pillar of content creation cameras that appeals to all. And it was interesting what you said earlier about who is this for. The fact is you can go from entry to high end and educate yourself through that range. So really strong lineup in terms of this profile of customer that the or consumer or end user that it's aimed at. And of course, what's going on inside? Well, full frame sensor, 12 million pixels. It's got the A7S III processor as well. And what's been added new from the A7R5 is the dedicated autofocus processing unit. And in terms of what that brought to the A7R5, which was new to the range, which was improved reliability, improved learning, improved speed, and so on. What we're seeing with this camera is how it works in additional modes that you wouldn't normally get on the rest of the vlogging range. And again, we'll go into that, but things like auto framing without having to have a second shooter with you, it almost acts like that. Framing stabilization, it's adjusting internally using the additional pixels it's got on the sensor to make the look like it's following you, but actually with no movement, it's actually using the face detection to stay in the frame, which is then reducing editing time. Again, for that person that doesn't really know much about editing or maybe doesn't have enough time to edit it. So out of the box, the marketing stuff we have here, it looks good, but I think, each to the individual that's using it could actually probably push it even further to their own use. And then you've got the features like product showcase and soft skin effect and, things like that, again, out of box for vlogging, social media channels and so on. It's going to give you the look that maybe you don't have with your existing camera or mobile phone.
I mean, if you just go back to that slide for a second, I think all three of those things there on the left surprised me massively when I first heard what this camera was. I mean, obviously you expect it to be have the dedicated vlog features like the rest of the lineup. That's expected. But that AI processing unit was before this only available in A7R Mark V, which is one of your top of the line professional cameras. And then that processing unit is also your highest end professional processing unit. And so each one of those two went, oh, wow, you put that in it. And then we got to the sensor, which is the full frame sensor from the A7S Mark III, FX3, FX6. And probably not even arguably your most popular professional sensor ever. And that's in this as well. All three of those took me so by surprise when I first heard what this camera was. You've really chucked the kitchen sink at it.
Well, again, I think, that's really complimentary to what you're saying, but I think we've obviously giving this technology to users that wouldn't normally maybe consider Sony camera in this kind of functionality. And also, like I said, it kind of makes sense that we use the best technology we've got to drive the best capabilities out of it. So, let's hope that this comes for future products as well.
And I guess also goes a long way to explain the price point of the camera because, compared to the A7S Mark III and FX6 and those kind of cameras, this is not an expensive camera. This is a very, very affordable camera. But compared to those cameras in the ZV lineup, this is really quite
it's a big
expensive camera.
Yeah.
And this explains why.
And again, I think when you look at the end of the range, it's very clear, I think, now with the Sony range, where if you're looking to move to Sony or you're an existing Sony user, where each kind of genre of whether it's filmmaking or hybrid or vlogging, which route you take. And it's not just one or two cameras, there's a whole range now. And I think as our technologies improves, the look and the feel, like S-Cinetone, for example, in this camera, it matches the color science of the other cameras, which is, can only be a good thing.
Absolutely, because if you said the right route for you as a creator might be the ZV range, because you're not a professional camera operator, but you use cameras to make a living, but all those might not be quite good enough for the image quality that you wanted, enter this camera.
Yeah, so I think looking at some of the reviews yesterday as well, there's been some real positive feedback on it as a concept. So hopefully we can continue to push Sony technology in that way. We've discussed already, obviously, the sensor and the processor, and it's 8 times faster than the previous engine, which for example, Sony tests under the ZV-E10, it's comparing to. So again, but it's a similar sensor. It's same processing engine as you find with other models. Now, I haven't personally tested the low light performance, but if we base it on the performance of the A7S III, for example, then it can only be, again, a good thing from that 12 million pixels that the signal to noise ratio is excellent. So again, that's just another advantage of
and it's
that
a
technology.
hugely important part of this, because A7S Mark III sensor is regarded as the best low light sensor on the market right now, for those crazy high ISOs. And to have that in a vlogging camera where you're going to be taking it into any old situation. People are going to be taking these into caves, onto the streets at night.
Yeah, and this video show you're going to get that look that you would associate, just because it's a smaller compact camera and there's no compromise in quality. So there's no doubt there's a lot of imagery you see there that has LUTs or looks that have been added to it. But the fact is, you're going to get that look that maybe you can't get on a smaller camera within our range, or the fact that you've got this system now that can give it to you for a good price, as you said, where it sits, that other people are obviously used to with higher end cameras. In terms of video, it's clean, 422 10-bit, so no pixel binning in the recording mode. So again, in terms of all intra, long GOP, you've got, we'll come onto the table a bit later, but you've
yet another thing I was surprised, because again, when I thought, cool, you're going to limit the codecs that are inside it. You're going to not have log. You're not going to have only 8-bit. Because that makes sense for those kind of entry level beginner people. Absolutely not true. Professional codecs, professional color science, all of it.
There's nothing in the menu system that's any different to the other cameras as well. So I haven't put this in, it's just reminding me, but you do have the new menu system, so it's all pretty much laid out in the same way as an S3 and so on, and slightly different to menu systems as ZV-E10. But again, in terms of, we've made improvements with the touchscreen for menu selection and so on, which is really, really good to, encouraging. But of course, the recording times on this camera are slightly different to the FX3 and the A7S3 in terms of the way it's built. So there's no heat management system in the camera.
Since
which
you brought
means
up
the
heat
recording-
management,
Yeah.
we've had 3 questions now on overheating. So I think it's worth us just mentioning very quickly overheating. Do you want to say anything on overheating?
Well, only that in terms of recording times with the right ambient temperatures and so on, you can look it up online what we recommend. If you look at some of the reviews yesterday, there's a lot of people that have extended it further and so on. So I think it's encouraging that the fact that we've got this camera that has got really good recording times, which are competitive with the rest of the range. So I think it's again a really good thing in terms of how long you're recording and what environment you're working in.
Yeah, and the camera does have some overheating. It will turn off after X amount of time. The numbers that I haven't done any overheating tests myself on it, but the numbers I've been seeing come back from people who have are pretty good. We're talking an hour to 2 hours in some of the highest quality modes, which is more than good enough for, I think, nearly every situation where this might be run in. Jonathan put an interesting comment about is there any overheating when shooting HD? Just thinking for things like podcasts where 4K is less important, however long recording time is required. I think that's a fantastic question. Do you know if HD massively reduces that? I mean, I presume it will.
Well, some of the things I picked up on yesterday were that I can't quote on what other people have done, but no, the recording time is extended in lower quality if comparing it to 4K codec. So at such an early stage of the camera being released, again, I can't comment on it, but
it's also an engineering sample, of course. Right now, the camera's not.
Yeah,
released,
I when I did some content when I first got hold of it, like you, for a very limited amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was shooting all day on it in terms of video and stills, and not really long quality in terms of battery life. It was very good compared to other batteries in our range. So
Absolutely.
there was no issue whatsoever in terms of that, and not even hot, warm to touch. It performed excellent. And using it, I had no qualms about is it going to overheat or anything like that. It performed excellent, and the quality. What I'm used to the A7S III. I could see the similarity in terms of S-Cinetone coming out. That knowing that I was recording with an S3, and then recording internally with that camera, that when they put them together, it matched really, really well. So
it is an interesting question. It might be something that I test once the camera is shipping and in final model. It's things like there's just so many questions with it, like the AI unit, for example. So that framing thing, which I think you're going to talk about in a minute, where you can swap between the people that are talking and stuff. Amazing for podcast filming.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously we're professionally filming this right now, but if we weren't and you were just trying to do it sort of with a small camera like this, that's a fantastic feature to have. And
I think
does that affect overheating?
Well,
Who knows?
I don't know, because I've never used it in that way. But I think we'll come on to the other functionality of it, because they're real huge steps forward in terms of if you're in front of the camera on your own. And you're looking at your workflow and your editing time, then and you can reduce that potentially with some of the new features. Then again, that's another good way of making better content than you would traditionally do. But again, that's that type of user that isn't going to be spending quality time, production houses or whatever,
Sure.
In terms of editing.
Cool. I mean, I will try and run some next time I get my hands on the camera. I haven't got any time after this. This is going back imminently. But I will try and do some overheating tests next time I get my hand on the camera with some of those AI features and in HD and anything like that, because I'm very curious about it. Very curious about it.
I'll come on to the recording modes in a second, but again, S-Log3, we've got high dynamic range as well in terms of Sony testing. So a little caveat there is S-Log3 movie recording.
Sorry, I've just realised I've forgotten someone's question on the overheating thing. Was it the dummy Ariel about the dummy? Does a dummy battery reduce overheating? I haven't tested it on this, but in my experience, a dummy battery or plugging it into mains normally reduces overheating times on cameras generally. So I would expect it to. Sorry. Let's carry on.
No, that's fine. And then we get the ever famous recording modes, which again are available to see on the spec lists online.
And this all looks identical to A7S.
It doesn't include 120p. We'll come on to that in a second.
True.
That is coming via a firmware update later in the year. So this is what you're getting out of the box in terms of quality of codec. And again, when you look at the menu system, this is what you get. This is what you're getting on the other high-end cameras as well. Sure. So in terms of, there's no compromise in terms of quality and ability, depending on if you're recording externally or internally as well.
While we're on the slide, can I do my normal...
Yes, go for it.
My normal feature request for engineers in a public forum. HS, the XAVC HS in H.265 is limited to either 50p or 24p. Where's my 25 and where's my 30? Please. We'll pass it down to the engineers, but that is definitely a feature I would love to see added to that list.
In terms of what a workflow looks like with this camera, it's no different to the other higher end cameras as well. So you can input LUTs as well in terms of output onto an SD card, external recording, and then using Catalyst Browse, for example, as post-production in terms of enhancing stabilization as well. We'll come on to that in a second. This camera is more than capable of matching A7S III and so on. And as you showed the camera earlier, what's going on the outside, you've got a switch that switches it on and off. You've got stills, movie, slow and quick, record button, tally light at the front as well. You've got your vari-angle LCD screen. And I think I mentioned earlier about the zoom lever now. If you... we'll come on to clear image zoom, but you can use that as your zoom. So if you've got a power zoom as well, 1635 power zoom, you're able to use that lever at the front of the camera as well as using the rocker switch on the side of the lens as well. So, really well set up. And then you can see here that it's very similar in terms of functionality compared to ZV-E10 as well. So
what's also nice about using it with that 16 to 35 particularly, we cut to there we go, is from the front, that rocking leader, when you've got it in front of you in vlogging mode, you can access that really easily from in front of the camera, which is
don't forget,
if
if you've got a grip,
place.
if you've got a grip, you can use the grip.
True, use it on the grip.
And if you've got a mobile phone, you can connect it and actually alter the zoom level on your remote, on your phone or your tablet as well. So
Very good point.
Good functionality there. On the side, one SD card slot. You've got your headphone, microphone jack. Then you've got your USB charging, and also used for live streaming, for webinars and so on. So USB live streaming, and you've got micro HDMI on there for output as well. When you record on the display at the back, you'll obviously get a red line across to the screen, which you find now on most of our newer cameras, and it still continues to use the Z battery, which is obviously a very good capacity for cameras like this in terms of long recording times. And now we have a self timer, not just for movies, but you can use this in time lapse as well. So that helps, and just gives you an idea here of how much recommended recording time you get from the camera. So you can see if you're moving from a ZV-E10, there's a huge difference in terms of the ability of the camera to perform.
The self-timer for movies thing is fantastic for being in front, because it just cuts down on editing. If you don't want to edit anything and spend forever taking off that first little awkward pause in the video, having a little countdown timer before you start talking, brilliant feature.
I think there's some features that we've really benefit the end user, and I think again, it's really, really encouraging that we see that. And this is just a comparison to the A7C. So those that use the A7C, I don't know, maybe more towards still shooting, hybrid, it's almost identical in size. So without the viewfinder, if you compared it to an A7S III, for example, then the whole ergonomics had changed with the central viewfinder and so on, a heat management system. And just some content recorded recently that we've got we put the trio of lenses on, so it's small in the hand. And just a note as well, the strap connectors as well. There's no metal strap adjusters as well. So obviously when you're shooting, you haven't got anything moving about on the camera itself.
No rattling.
Yeah, I've got relatively small hands, but it did fit well in the hand, I have to say. And we brought this in now, this spec list, just to give you an idea really of what you're getting with the ZV-E1, but also actually there's a lot on the other models that are set up for vlogging and content creation as well, which this is where the ZV-E1 is getting most of its functionality from. So obviously battery change, in terms of Wi-Fi streaming as well, come onto this, that you can now use higher 4K instead of lower resolution with the ZV-E10 and other models as well. So really here we'll cover quite a lot for the rest of the talk here. But just as I said, in terms of still functionality, there's no mechanical shutter. There's no bulb shooting, there's no long exposure, noise reduction, there's no obviously viewfinder, there's no mode dial that you would find. So if somebody's looking at this thinking, this is a really good stills camera, yes it is, but actually it's very limited functionality. You might want to look at an A7C or maybe a more alpha central.
It's a video camera which you can take good stills on, rather than a stills camera which you can take a video on.
And like if you picked up a stills camera, it would be set up for stills and you have to switch it into video. This is a video camera, it's fully set up. But you can still get continuous shooting, bracket, single bracket, uncompressed RAW, anti-flicker shooting, but it doesn't have any NFC or any infrared remote receiver as well. So, like I said, it is limited. And then when we look at actually the differences between, we've spoken about the A7S III and the FXC quite a lot. So those that are used to that technology, you even though it's really good technology, you won't be getting all of this with the ZV-E1, but you'll be getting new vlog setting, the product showcase, touch operation, which come onto this now in more detail, and of course you've got higher resolution in terms of live streaming as well. And now we go into some of the functionality of vlogging that you would find with the rest of the range, but there's also some new improvements for the ZV-E1 that we don't have within the rest of the vlogging range. And for those who are not aware, that literally one button will defocus the background. You press it again, it clears it. I mean, how easy is that? Now, for some people,
it is so easy.
you know, that's irrelevant. But I think for the end user that we're looking at coming through the vlogging range, is that this is so easy to do. And again, if you've got a really bright, sharp lens that gives you really good, bokeh, then at the end of the day, that's going to really make the difference between the two is really quite evident when you're taking shots.
It's this button that does it, by the way, for those of you watching at home. Just one push of this button will change it.
You can customize the other buttons as well if that's the case, if it's not in the right position for you.
But it is a nice position for it because from in front of the camera, you can see it. It's just there right next to the record button.
And you can set it up in the menu system. New to this, and this is in intelligent auto mode, so it's the only mode you can do it in, not manually. But when you've got one person in front of the camera, it will obviously focus on them. But if somebody else walks in, then it will gradually narrow the aperture down and bring everyone in focus. So it won't do it straight away and make it look very obvious, but it will. The person that's in the frame, they'll be both in focus. So it go from f2.8 to f10, for example, or something like that. Again, does it automatically, so you don't even have to think about it. So if you're front of the camera, and you're not, you're wondering why is that person never in focus, or do I need to get them lined? You don't have to worry about that. But again, it's that type of user that maybe doesn't have that knowledge.
It's basically, these two are the same thing, effectively, aren't they? It's doing the same thing. It's just that multiple face recognition is automatically going from defocus when it's just one face on there to the clear mode when it spots that there's two people.
And when that person walks out the frame, it goes back to normal. So again, it's using that autofocus technology that we've added from the R5 to make this happen. So again, a really good mode. And then we have on the screen a vlog setting. So when you're using the camera, if you're setting up with S-Cinetone and so on, you'll get the look. If you use and switch on the Cine Vlog element, then immediately you'll get black bars. They're baked into the image. You can then change the look and now a mood. So there's new moods to the camera. And the only way really I can explain what that looks like is just to play this very short video.
Sorry, let's go back to that.
So you can see here, when you go into cinematic mode, you see the changes of the look. We've got some cracking names in here, but we're going from a green tinge and so on to mono, and then we do have moods. So gold, it's a lot warmer, it's cooler, and so on. So somebody that's looking for a certain look in the camera, they can literally just switch it on very, very quickly.
And if you combine features like that with the self-timer and the framing stabilizer and all the rest of it, you end up with being able to create really cinematic-looking vlogs like people are already doing with a decent post-production workflow without having to do any of that as just a really simple, beginner-friendly way of doing it. Which is
and
great.
I think, again, this is really helping the end user to create something that they might have to spend a bit more time outside of the camera, or they're not used to. And again, with the touchscreen now, if you look at here, you can now change the aperture and the shutter and the mood and everything, which is great. And you can flick left and right as well on the screen. So the touchscreen is more intuitive. However, some of the settings are fixed, as you can see here. So in terms of aspect ratio, frame rate and so on, but you then can, the looks and the moods are limited, but if you want even greater control, then you go into manual and you can upload your LUTs and so on.
Really interesting comment here from Jonathan, who says some of these features are really useful for professionals now too, because clients are used to these sorts of things from their phones and expect us to be able to do it too instantly.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Some clients are going to want a full post-production workflow and are used to not seeing it till months after the fact. Some just expect you to be able to do what their phone can do straight away.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I didn't even consider that, but if they're seeing something on social media and they want that look, and you could get it out of camera, let's just say,
show them log footage when they want that look. For some uneducated clients, that is going to be a big old leap of faith and trust in the person that they've hired to create the video.
And this is out of box, so one touch, you're fully
there.
set up. I won't go into too much detail about the looks, but again, this just gives you an idea. We saw it in the video. You've also got moods as well, and you still have the creative looks that you have with the alpha cameras that you can see here. And also in terms of how the screen looks, when you're out of cinematic mode, then you can set it up in terms of background defocus, brightness. You can adjust the parameters in it to turn the touchscreen off or on, so you don't need to go into the menu system and so on.
This is again an even more beginner-friendly mode, if you like, to be able to use terms like brightness, color, background defocus, rather than showing them the aperture and ISO and all the rest of it.
Again, a good
It's
point.
so easy.
Terminology, I suppose, people are used to these kind of icons, you know, that kind of end user that's, how do I improve the, you know, the exposure? How to make it lighter,
Absolutely.
darker?
If they've only ever used a phone and then they buy one of these, this kind of mode is going to
help.
feel so friendly.
Yeah. And then in terms of stabilization, well, the camera has steady shot inbuilt, and we have now active mode, which again you find on a lot of our cameras in terms of electronic stabilization. And then post the data that's taken from the sensor and the gyro, you can obviously enhance or change in post, like catalyst browse and so on. And now you've got dynamic active mode. So I think it's about 1.2 crop with active. This is higher, 1.5 times crop. It really does crop in. So again, if you're vlogging, you know, it might be too tight on the back of the screen where the look that you're getting. But the fact is that it's to try and reduce that, you know, walking element when you've got something, you know, when you're in front of the camera itself. And there's a video in a second to show you that. But where this comes into action is using then face detection and stabilization to be able to, if you're walking alongside yourself and you're vlogging and you've got it on a grip, and your movement is quite evident, then using these modes will be able to kind of track you and give you kind of a very more stable look. Again, setting it up in the camera really easily, and using the AI processor as well. And that processor, like we said, came from the A7R5, where it's now detecting not just your face, it's detecting where your body position is, and also if your head's at the, you know, away from the camera, you know, if it's small, and so on. Then in terms of reliability and accuracy, it's even more improved than we've seen before.
Very impressive.
And takes into consideration all these different things as well. So, you know, very, very clear that it isn't just animals and humans that we have in other cameras. It's other objects and so on as well. And here's a small video that will just give you an example of that in terms of the active mode. So you've got on the left active, which, okay, there's a little bit of movement, but the crop on the right is obviously far greater, but you've reduced that element of movement, again, in camera. And then the framing stabilizer using AI technology, as we're saying here, I mean, it doesn't obviously pick up the lines of your body in the camera, but yeah, so the box we're seeing here is the actual footage that will be recorded, and you can see that it's reducing quite impressively the amount of movement that you get, but again, in camera and done you know, very with ease. And
important note, presumably all of this is only available in 1080p, not in 4K, because it's having to crop in so much.
There are, I had to look at that in terms of the spec. There are some modes that, yes, you could do in 4K as
some
well
you
as
can, and some you can't.
Yeah. Any more questions?
It's as if you knew.
Yeah.
One had just come in,
That'd
not
give
a
me a bit of
question,
a
just
pause.
saying great live stream, should have Mark on as a guest more often. It's as if you could see it and
really?
just wanted me to
Look at that.
bring it
Who
up.
was that? Somebody from my family, was it?
Yes,
Oh, was
exactly. It's your wife. No, it's the Nord Film Company.
Well, actually, I know who that is. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Very good. So just going into a bit more detail in terms of auto framing. Again, this is under test conditions done in our colleagues in Japan, again using a tripod. So you can see the recorded footage on the right hand side and the framing, but you can delve in deeper. So you can now actually go, you can set the timing, you can set the crop level and the framing tracking speed. I don't think I've spoken yet, but the transition and so on in terms of how it locks on. And I'll come on to this one in a minute, but you've got two options for output for recording, both internal and external. So this gives you an idea of the crop. So again, if you've got a wide angle lens and you want to really, you know, zoom in terms of cropping, then you can. And the framing tracking, you can make it really quite natural, or what I did wrong when I tested recently is didn't change the speed and it just moved. So you're like, actually that doesn't look as good as you could get it. But the fact is, again, you just move the button up and down and you're getting this really good ability to if you're on your own, you haven't got a second shooter, this is ideal.
I can easily see this being used because that kind of vlogger filming by yourself kind of thing, they're always looking for ways to make each shot more dynamic and more engaging.
Yeah,
and things like this are a great way of doing that.
Yeah, and it's not until these things come then you start thinking, hang on a minute, that would I do a lot of streaming and stuff, and potentially I have two cameras, and actually maybe I don't need that now. So it would change the way I record. And then
again, it's as if you knew. A question had just come in saying, do all of these AI features work when you're web streaming?
Good question. I'll have to check that, but it might be worth getting that person's details, and we'll come back to them on that.
Jogbird, if you leave a comment on this will be saved after the stream is over. It will be saved as a YouTube video.
My guess
if you leave a YouTube comment down there, I will find out and reply to you.
My guess is no, because it's a different function.
Might have to be only so much processing power.
Obviously, you could pre-record it and then do it that way, but we can check into that.
Yeah.
But this really impressed me as well, is the fact that you can record to SD card, you can record externally, but you can also use the app on the Creators Cloud, the new app, to record separately. So wide on one format and the crop on another.
And features like that go a huge way to mean that professionals might end up using it rather than just the content creator sort of vlogger market. Because to have the backup of making sure your HDMI is being recorded onto an Atomos or whatever with full untouched, unmessed with footage is so important for peace of mind in professional work if you're going to trust a feature like that.
Yeah, I agree. And this is just a quick video to show you. So it starts off around here. There's the actual footage. So this is what you're seeing out of camera, and the next scene is what you're seeing at the back of the camera, and you can see that it's tracking the eye, it's tracking the movement, which again, the camera's static here. You touch the second subject and depending on the speed, it moves it across. So again, that camera's on its own, there's nobody behind it, it's actually doing it itself and it's not moving. So it's using those additional pixels that it can crop into to actually give you that sense of movement, which again is really quite intuitive for a vlogging camera. Transition speed and subject shift sensitivity. Again, you find this on most of the newer cameras, as also focus map and focus assist. So all of a sudden, again, we're moving into that realm of higher end cameras in the range that had it relatively new recently. Absolutely. And now it's part of the vlogging range. We spoke earlier again as well around the zoom lever. So using clear image zoom, which you can find on most of our cameras anyway, but I really haven't pushed it that much in terms of video functionality. Those that are familiar with our video element of our cameras probably use it. But the fact is, if you've got, I don't know, a 20mm lens on the ZV-E1 and you're using clear image zoom, obviously it's a prime fixed lens, you can increase the focal length by using the zoom switch on the camera. And again, it's digital zoom. It is very good. It's worth a try because actually some of the footage that we did record recently looked really good, but I didn't have to use a 40mm lens or a 35mm lens. I could use the same lens. And within that... And
I think it's important to mention that is a feature that's been on all the pro cameras. We've been using that on the professional cinema cameras as a feature to just get that little bit of extra reach out of a prime lens, and it's been used by professionals. So, on a camera like this, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and again, as you've just said, you find it on other cameras in terms of being able to change the speed of that zoom as well, so you can be even more creative. And come on to the 4K 120 and Full HD 240 as well. This will be released later by a firmware update later in the year.
Yes, that would be so important to so easy to miss for customers, wouldn't it? So at launch, the camera isn't going to have 4K 120 or Full HD 240.
Yeah.
It's going to come in a firmware update.
Yes.
later on in the year.
So, we also recommend that if you haven't signed up for the Creators Cloud, I'll come on to that briefly later, but, do that so that, we'll alert you through messages that way, whether it's desktop or app. So,
Gotcha.
Make sure that you do that, or stay close to our website. That will, obviously when it does get announced, there'll be a date. And then, time lapse. It's got time lapse. It's got slow and quick movie, but now we have a dedicated movie mode for time lapse as well, right down to 1 second. So any longer recording time with the codecs and the modes, the video modes can change accordingly. So you can be even more creative with this camera. We talked briefly about the microphone. You can now change the direction of the microphone. If you're in front, if you're auto, it'll calculate where you are at the front, rear, or wherever you are in front or to the side of the camera, and then you can actually set it up for front and rear as well. So you've got a little bit more control, and you are supplied with the windscreen dead cat with the camera as well. So it just makes me laugh when I see it, because it's all pristinely, and actually when it comes out of the box, it's a little bit different. But especially this one that we got there. Obviously, it reduces wind noise, and it does have it. Does. I've seen some of the reviews, and some of the reviews, there really is a big,
big difference in using the wind.
Absolutely. And of course, then it's got a digital interface shoe as well. So, we've got some of the smaller microphones on the ZV-E10 here. No cables, makes the connection. One of the Bluetooth microphones as well that we use. You can plug a lavalier mic into it if you want to, but once you connect it, it makes the handshake straight away, and it communicates. And I have to say, ease of use. But again, if you've got a third-party microphone, you can use the microphone jack and still monitor the output as well.
And it is one of the better. I did have a little quick test of the inbuilt microphone, and it is one of the better inbuilt microphones I've used on a camera like this. But I would still absolutely recommend every customer looks at some of those MI external microphone accessories, because they make a huge difference to the quality of the sound of your voice. I agree.
And the Creators Cloud. So if you're not, the imaging app has changed now. We have this one-stop solution online in terms of.
This is now the app that people do the stuff they're used to doing on the app, things like controlling it, transferring photos.
Yeah, it is model specific at the moment. Okay. So within this app, you also have Imaging Edge, so you can still make that. You're not going to lose anything. But for any new features and functionality, there'll be updates or a notice that model will be added. But it's not just. I think it's very much in its infancy. It's going to grow, and the community is growing already. Mm-hmm. And it gives you access then to other cloud-based services that again could for a product like this, we're just going to enhance your workflow. So I think it's a great addition to our I haven't tried
this yet. I need to
range
spend a bit of time with it.
Maybe we could do something separate on that in the future. That'd be great. Have a look. There's one for desktop. There's one for app. For both Android and iPhone as well. So obviously if you've got a tablet, it's going to look even better. So the fact is, watch this space if it hasn't been updated for your camera at the moment.
Sure.
And then we talked about streaming. So yes, we now have 4K 30p. Again, you get good readout. This is me here using my Ecamm platform that I use. The quality coming out of it is excellent. Again, dependent on your hardware, what's coming, what you're putting into in terms of computer, and obviously your bandwidth as well. Other cameras have got 4K 15p. But then you've also got full HD 30 and 60p as well, so you can get some really good, and that literally is USB into the camera. You're using online platforms for meetings. Yep. Finds it straight away, you select it, and away you go. And if you're using then a really high quality lens, then you're going to get a very different look as well.
I mean, I know some corporate customers that buy cameras literally just for this feature. I just need to look as good as I possibly can do in my Teams meetings, and go, they will buy cameras like this just for that. And that UVC/UAV, whoa, it's a mouthful, is so quick and easy. It's just so much better than any other way of doing it.
And it's much better than what we had before. We had to go on the app, and
absolutely.
Really ease of use. Again, I think that's the main thing here for this camera, is that a lot of we've talked about And compared to what we've talked about in the past, the A7, the FX30 and the A7R5, where it's really high end in terms of operation, this is the other end of how easy it is to use.
Sure, you just run it in auto and plug it in like that.
Away you go.
Done.
We touched briefly on recycling. This is very important to us in terms of how we produce our products and package them. So in terms of the recycle element, the surplus from the polyester and recycle elements are actually used to make the cameras, and not only that, the packaging as well. So you'll see a dramatic change in what we used to do in terms of that, and it's coming from other materials, as you can see here, bamboo and so on, and recycled paper. But just to highlight that when you do buy this, there will not be a USB cable in the box to consider the environment, which just to let you know on that one.
Sure, it's becoming more and more common nowadays.
Yeah. And finally, we'll just go back to that slide of the differences between the the 4 cameras here, but more importantly, focusing on the ZV-E1 in terms of what you're getting. So I don't think there's anything we haven't covered here today, and just not forgetting that the 4K 120p will be updated at a later stage. And then again, the differences between the current, leading cameras in our filmmaking range compared to what you're getting with this, but what you're getting with this content creation camera, because of who is aimed for, is some amazing features that straight out of the camera. Again, the ease of use is going to enhance that end user to be more creative.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, I think that is a great place to leave it then.
Great.
That's a nice
Thank you for your
comprehensive overview. Thank you so much, Mark. So for any customers that are interested in this, of course, it's available at ProAV. The pre-orders are up live now on the website, and I'm going to put a link to that in the comment section down below this video. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's always great to come here and talk about products. And thank you. And hope you get some more questions, and we'll come back to that other one as well.
Absolutely, we'll answer that in the comment section, and if anyone else has any other questions, leave them down in the comments. We're going to be monitoring that and getting back to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone tuning in.
No, thank you for coming. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye.
T-minus 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Power, yep.
Meet Aperture's first ever tube light, the MT Pro. 36 pixels in 1 foot, with CRMX in any color. Unleash your creativity with one or many. Leading the industry in pixel density, the MT Pro produces ultra-smooth chases and effects unmatched by any other light.
It's time to change the way we think about lighting. Introducing the new Anglerfish series from iFootage. Boasting cutting-edge color reproduction without sacrificing portability, the Anglerfish series makes cinematic lighting more accessible than ever. The Anglerfish series utilizes a bespoke construction and a new one-of-a-kind LED element to recreate the full spectrum of the sun with unbeaten accuracy. This unique LED element recreates the full daylight spectrum, but without the blue peak that's typically found in even the top studio lighting products.
I got my eye on the dance floor, eye on the door. Hey, a DJ, you like the way I sway? I gotta get it.
Lady, go!
1, 2, 3, 4. It's fast, yeah, you're gonna shut up. Battle your battles, you got a talent, how to the cure. If it's trash, yeah, you're gonna take it out. Handle it rapidly, got the magic, you got it for sure. You can see what's in your jar. Alpha.
Meet Swit's latest RGBW panel innovations, the Van Gogh 70 and Van Gogh 100 LED panels. The Van Gogh series uses exclusive edge-mounted RGBW SMD LEDs, which results in an extremely thin 21mm LED panel that is fanless, making zero noise on set. The time division drive technology makes Van Gogh up to 60% brighter than its competitors in RGB mode. You can count on extreme color accuracy with a very high CRI and TLCI. Thinner, lighter, brighter, and quieter. These are the Van Gogh Ultra Slim RGBW panels by Swit.
Alpha.
has 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Welcome to the empire, yeah. I got all the power, yep. Yeah, I got all the power.
Meet Aperture's first ever tube light, the MT Pro. 36 pixels in 1 foot, with CRMX in any color. Unleash your creativity with one or many. Leading the industry in pixel density, the MT Pro produces ultra-smooth chases and effects unmatched by any other light.
It's time to change the way we think about lighting. Introducing the new Anglerfish series from iFootage. Boasting cutting-edge color reproduction without sacrificing portability, the Anglerfish series makes cinematic lighting more accessible than ever. The Anglerfish series utilizes a bespoke construction and a new one-of-a-kind LED element to recreate the full spectrum of the sun with unbeaten accuracy. This unique LED element recreates the full daylight spectrum, but without the blue peak that's typically found in even the top studio lighting products.
I got my eye on the dance floor, eye on the door. Hey, a DJ, you like the way I sway? I gotta get it.
Lady, go!
One,